We are now in part 11 of our discussion of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. And here we're going to discuss the aspects of the highest good. There are two of them, completeness and self-sufficiency. We do it because at this point we break with the previous approach of surveying opinions about happiness. And here we're going off on our own into our own philosophical investigation of the highest good. Starting with that, we can recognize that it has two elements, two aspects. It is complete and it is self-sufficient. All of which is to say that the good that is happiness must be complete and self-sufficient. Let's see how this investigation, a philosophical investigation, proceeds. At this point, Aristotle changes gears and starts investigation of the highest good in a different mode, more theoretically or more contemplatively, as it were. We will no longer ask persons what they would say happiness is, according to how they live or otherwise. But we will proceed on our own, thinking together for ourselves. The first step in this independent and fully philosophical investigation is to recognize that by the nature of the concept of the highest good, it is complete and self-sufficient. Completeness means that that which is complete is sought for the sake of itself, while everything else is sought for it, and it is not sought for the sake of anything else. That which is complete stands at the end of the chain of various goods, sought one for the sake of the next. Happiness was at the end of the chain. Everything is done for the sake of it. It is not done for the sake of anything else. So happiness is a good candidate for the complete. Highest good. Right? That's pretty clear. Money is not complete. It is pursued for the sake of spending it. Happiness is complete. It is pursued for the sake of itself. Money, unless it is spent, does not bring happiness. Happiness need not lead to anything else in order to be fulfilling. Happiness is fulfilling in itself, and it is that for the sake of which we do everything else. Interestingly enough, Aristotle says that pleasure is a complete good, in the sense that pleasure is good even if nothing else results from it. Pleasure need not be sought for the sake of something else. Pleasure is good in itself. And so those who claim that the highest good is pleasure are onto something, and much more so than those who would say that money is the highest good. That is so from the standpoint of completeness. But the highest good is both complete and self-sufficient. And while pleasure is a complete good, it is not a self-sufficient good. Thus, pleasure is not the highest good. A good that is self-sufficient and is not lacking in anything. The highest good is not only complete, that for the sake of which everything is done, but it is also self-sufficient. It includes all that is needed for a good life. Happiness is not only complete, that everything is done for it, but it is not done for anything else. Happiness is also self-sufficient. Nothing is lacking from happiness. It is that ultimate, all-inclusive goal for the sake of which we do everything. Pleasure is not a self-sufficient good because a person undergoing pleasure is passive and is not active, while a human being is by nature an active being and requires more than pleasure. In other words, a happy human life requires action and the good achieved in action. Virtue, as it turns out, not honor, as may be the first and more obvious answer, but virtue upon further reflection when we dealt with the political life. But at the same time, while pleasure is not a self-sufficient human good, or the highest good, that highest good or happiness is also not without pleasure. it must include pleasure in some sense. Good life is life that includes pleasure. Human being is not pure activity, but is also a passivity, according to nature in some sense. A happy life, the one we seek by our nature, includes pleasure. Keeping in mind that pleasure is a complete good, and that there may be other complete goods as well, Aristotle concludes that the highest good is the complete good that is most self-sufficient. In other words, includes as many parts as possible of a good and fulfilled human life. So pleasure is one complete good. There are probably others, but happiness includes as many of these complete goods as possible as are needed for a life from which nothing is lacking.